I sat in the lawyer's office, gripping the armrests of the chair so tightly that my nails dug into the upholstery. In front of me, with a smug grin, sat Tara, my ex-husband's new wife. She was running her perfectly manicured nails over each other and occasionally casting victorious glances at me. Let's get straight to the point. Her voice was as sticky as caramel, but I knew that poison lurked behind it. As Ethan's wife, I have the right to a share of Mr. Randolph's estate, your late father. I felt rage boil inside me. This woman had first taken my husband from me, and now she wanted to take the inheritance that rightfully belonged to my family. Lawyer Mr. Harris calmly opened a folder with documents and gave Tara a cold look. "Excuse me, Miss Hensley, Mrs. Randolph," Tara corrected him, reveling in her new status. "Be that as it may," he continued calmly, "you have no rights to Mr. Randolph's property." Tara snorted. "My husband is the legal heir. What belongs to him belongs to me." "I'm afraid that's not the case." Mr. Harris turned the page. "You see, 2 weeks before his death, Mr. Randolph made changes to his will." I saw Tara's smug expression falter slightly. "Lies," she barked, but her voice was not as confident as before. "It's all documented. The new terms state that in the event of Mr. Randolph's death, all assets go exclusively to his daughter, and if she refuses, to a charitable foundation. But, Tara flushed with anger. "This is illegal, completely legal," Mr. Harris replied coldly. "Moreover, if your husband decides to contest the will, it will be considered a betrayal of the deceased's wishes, meaning he will lose any chance to claim the inheritance in the future." I barely held back a smile. My father knew what kind of snake had slithered into our family and had foreseen everything. Tara jumped up, slammed her hand on the table, and turned to me. "You will regret this." "I doubt it," I calmly replied, meeting her gaze. "It's you who will lose everything." Tara stormed out of the office, and I finally exhaled. My lawyer had really thought everything through, and most importantly, I knew that the war was not over yet, but now I was ready. The next day, I received an anonymous message stating that if I did not renounce the inheritance, I would be in danger. I frowned but was not afraid. Instead, I went to Mr. Harris, who carefully studied the message. "This smells like something serious," he said quietly. "We need to find out who is behind this." That evening, I began an investigation. I needed to know how far Tara and Ethan were willing to go. I hired a private detective who followed them and discovered that they were meeting with some shady guy in an expensive restaurant. His face seemed vaguely familiar to me. When the detective sent me a photo, I froze. It was Mark Stanton, a notorious fraudster who had been caught multiple times in inheritance scams. Now everything fell into place. Tara and Ethan didn't just want money. They were planning something far more dangerous. I knew I had to act fast. I handed all the information to Mr. Harris, and we went to the police. That night, I couldn't sleep. I was waiting for a response, and it didn't take long. My phone rang at 2 in the morning. A hoarse voice on the other end said, "You'd better stay out of this, or you'll regret it." I felt a chill run down my spine, but fear turned into determination. They had chosen the wrong victim. The next morning, the police arrested Mark Stanton, who, as it turned out, was already under investigation for fraud. Soon Ethan and Tara also fell under suspicion, and when they were interrogated, the truth came to light. They had attempted to falsify documents and intimidate me to seize the estate, but now they faced prison time. I stood outside the courthouse as Tara was led out in handcuffs. Her gaze was full of hatred, but I knew that justice had prevailed. My father would have been proud that I had protected his legacy. Now I could finally start a new life, knowing that I had one. But the story did not end there. A week later, I received another letter, this time not an anonymous threat, but a legal notice. Tara had somehow managed to find a new lawyer, someone willing to continue her fight. It seemed she was trying to appeal her case, claiming that she had been coerced into signing fraudulent documents. I was furious, but not surprised. This woman would stop at nothing, Mr. Harris reassured me, telling me that we still had the upper hand, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Later that evening, I met with the private detective again. He had been keeping an eye on Ethan, and what he discovered was shocking. Ethan had been visiting an offshore bank multiple times over the past few months, withdrawing large sums of money. It seemed he and Tara had been planning their escape in case things went south. I immediately informed the police, and within days, new charges were brought against them for attempting to launder stolen money. The case became even bigger than I had anticipated, and soon journalists got wind of the scandal. It was all over the news, and the public was disgusted by Tara and Ethan's actions. When the final trial date arrived, I sat in the courtroom, feeling an odd sense of closure. Tara tried to maintain her defiant demeanor, but it was clear she was losing. Her new lawyer was struggling to defend her. Ethan refused to look at her, clearly realizing she had led him down a destructive path. The judge's verdict was final. Tara was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Ethan received a lighter sentence, but would never be able to claim a cent of my father's estate. As I left the courthouse for the last time, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. I had fought, I had won, and now I could finally move forward, knowing that my father's legacy was safe, no longer shadowed by greed and deceit.